Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Money Mondays. In today's topic, we are discussing 5 things I disagree with Dave Ramsey. If you haven't seen my Monday video from last week, I talked about 5 things that I do agree with Dave Ramsey. Make sure you check it out. Let's dive in our Ushanka studio in the sauna. Okay, so the first thing I disagree with Dave Ramsey is he says cut up all of your credit cards. Now, we know that Dave Ramsey is in the business of getting people out of debt. And most of his customers or most of his listeners are people who are deep in debt. That means they have thousands of dollars of credit card debt, car loans, student loan debts, and he's trying to help people out. If you're in that situation, yes, cut up your credit cards. But if you're in a situation that you know how to use debt responsibly, I suggest you have a credit card. And for those of you who are young, who are just starting out your journey, if you're 18, 20, sign up for the credit card. And that way, by having a credit card early on, you are building your credit history. The longer the credit history you have, the better it is for your credit score. Meaning that if you have a history of, let's say, 5 years of you paying off your credit card every month, as opposed to having 0 years of you using a credit card, and that helps drive your credit score. Now, we want to have a higher credit score in order for us to qualify for a mortgage and to have the best rate possible given to us by the bank. And I suggest buying things with it that you would buy normally with your debit card. That means like gasoline, groceries, or paying your bills. So don't have a credit card just to go and buy new clothes or latest gadgets. Use it responsibly and pay it off every month. The other thing you want to do is you never want to put more than 30% of available credit on your credit card. So lenders look at what your available credit is to how much debt you have on that available credit. That means if your limit on a credit card is $1,000, you never want to put more than $300 on that credit card. So make sure you pay attention to that, make sure you pay it off every month, and make sure you pay it on time. Okay, the second thing I disagree with Dave Ramsey is he's a proponent of stopping all contributions to your 401k while you're paying off your debt. Now, the reason I disagree with it is because most companies offer a match. So if you put 5% of your money into a 401k, your employer matches up to 2.5%. It means 5% of your money, 2.5% of their money. By stopping your contribution, you're leaving that money on the table. And what I suggest is you lower your contribution to that bare minimum to get that match from the employer. That way you're not leaving money on the table. And yes, it might take you just a hair bit longer to pay off your debt, but in the long run, you'll be ahead by thousands of dollars by taking advantage of that match. Okay, the third thing that I disagree with Dave Ramsey is having a 15-year mortgage.
Okay, so let me show you why a 30-year mortgage wins at the end. And this is because our interest rates are so low right now. So it makes absolutely more sense to take a 30-year mortgage and invest the difference. I pulled up today's rates. 30-year fixed rate right now is at 3.877%. And a 15-year fixed rate is at 2.999%. So I created this spreadsheet here, and I'm going to explain to you why the 30-year mortgage wins. So look, this is the 15-year scenario. Let's say we're going to take a loan for $250,000 to purchase a house. This is going to be a 15-year mortgage at 3%. I just round that up to 3%. Our monthly payments are going to be $1,726. Now, after 15 years, we will have a balance of $0 on this mortgage, which means after 15 years, we will have available $1,726 a month for us to invest. So if we invest that amount of money into the stock market for the next 15 years, and we're going to assume the average return on investment, which is 8% historical in the market. At the end of these 15 years, we're going to have a balance in the market of $586,458. Okay, now let's say we go with the 30-year mortgage. We're going to start out with the same mortgage amount. Our interest rate is going to be 1% higher, and our payment is going to be lower. it's going to be $1,194. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the difference between this payment, which is $1,726, and this payment $1,194, and then we're going to invest that into the stock market for 30 years. So here I plugged in 30 years, 8%, and that difference is $532. We have 30 years of compounding interest. And at the end of 30 years, we're going to have a balance of $754,171. Again, this is with an 8% average return. As you can see here, the difference between going with a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage at the end of 30 years is $167,713.
So a 30-year loan gives you flexibility and it also allows you to build wealth. Okay, the fourth thing that I disagree with Dave Ramsey is his love for mutual funds over index funds. Now, mutual funds are great because they are more diverse than single stocks. That means that there are companies that manage this basket of different types of investments. And they predict and they have strategies on where we're going to move our money to. So let's say it's a basket of 50 different companies, and they're making plans for next year to invest more into Apple, less into Facebook, or vice versa. And these mutual funds are handled by professionals, so there is a cost that comes with them. And that's why they can take, let's say, a 0.5% cut or a 0.8% cut of your contributions. Now that might not seem like a lot of money, but over a period of, let's say, 30, 40 years, that amounts to a lot of money. Whereas index funds are basically, they're taking it and they're trending the market. You can do like a total stock market index fund, meaning that it takes the whole stock market, takes your money, and invests it across the whole market. Now, index funds are not managed solely by people, they're more static, but they allow for lower rates. And on average, mathematically speaking, you will have a higher return using index funds opposed to using mutual funds. In the future, I'll be making a more in-depth video on this, going into more detail. All right, so the fifth point, which is closest to my heart, is using debt to buy real estate. Now, Dave Ramsey, at some point in time, got burned because he used balloon loans, and the bank that he used went under. The bank called on his mortgage, meaning he had to come up with the money that he borrowed from them. And so he got burned and he went bankrupt. And after that, that's when he started this whole movement of not using debt at all. Nowadays, you have access to traditional loans that are not balloon loans, that are locked in for the term of the loan. It means if you lock in a 15-year, a 20, or 30-year loan on your real estate, at no point in time will you be asked to pay that off right away. It's guaranteed. That's like comparing apples and oranges. So when Dave Ramsey says, do not use debt to purchase real estate because I got burned, he's not laying out all the details and how the game has shifted and how it's different now. By using debt to purchase real estate, there are so many advantages to it. But here's a quick breakdown why I believe this is important.
Okay, so let's say you take Dave Ramsey's advice and you're going to buy your investment property using cash. We're going to assume that you have accumulated $100,000 cash. We're going to purchase a $100,000 property. In this example, we're going to assume that our monthly rents are $1,000 a month, insurance is $500 a year, property taxes $2,500 a year. We're going to account for vacancy and repairs. These are annual. Total expenses are $4,200 a year on this property. $1,000 a month, we're going to make $12,000 a year gross. And if we subtract expenses from that, our net profit is $7,800 a year. Now, because properties appreciate over time and historical appreciation is around 3%, let's see what happens after 5 years. Well, in 5 years, your property is going to make $39,000, and this property is now going to be worth $115,927. So if we sum up this evaluation plus the income that you're going to make, that's going to be $154,927. And if we subtract our initial investment of $100,000, our 5-year profit is $54,927. Okay, so let's expand it to 30 years. After 30 years of renting this property, we're going to make $234,000 in rents. The value of this property after 30 years will be $242,726. And if we sum up the income that we made plus the valuation of this property, it's going to be $476,726. We subtract our initial investment of $100,000, and we're left with $376,726 of profit. Now that sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? Considering you only invested $100,000, you're making almost fourfold. Okay, so let me show you the power of leverage now. Let's say we start out with the same amount of money, $100,000. Now instead of buying a single property, we're going to spread that $100,000 among 5 properties by putting 20% down. So we're going to put $20,000 on each one of these properties. Now $20,000 on each one of these properties means we're going to have to finance 80 grand on each one of these properties. 80 grand a 30-year loan, 4% is $382 a month. So $382 a month times 12 months is going to be $45.84 per year per property. This is going to be our mortgage payment. We're going to assume the same expenses as we did in the cash example. We're going to assume the same income of $1,000 a month. So $12,000, we're going to have gross income on each one of these properties, $4,200 in expenses, $45.84 mortgage, and our net income is going to be $32.16 per property. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice that we are making $16,000 a year, which we're way ahead of our cash example. We're going to assume the same appreciation of 3%. And let's do the 5-year calculation. Well, after 5 years, we're going to make 80 grand on profits. The valuation of all these properties together is going to be $579,000. Next step, we're going to have to calculate what our balance is going to be after 5 years. Well, after 5 years of paying off these loans, we're going to have a balance of $361,790 on these mortgages. So then our income of $80,000 plus the valuation minus the balance is going to get us $298,247 minus our initial investment of $100,000. Our 5-year profit is $198,247. Wow, that's 4 times as much as we made with our single cash purchase. Okay, let's stretch this out to 30 years. After 30 years, we're going to make $482,000, and the valuation of these properties is going to be $1.2 million. If we sum up our income plus the valuation, we're going to be almost at $1.7 million minus our initial of $100,000. So our 30-year profit is going to be $1.6 million. Let's compare that to our cash purchase, $376,000. The difference between using leverage and using a cash purchase is $1.2 million over the course of 30 years. Now ask yourself, which makes more sense mathematically?
Hey, well, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe. If you guys have any questions about these breakdowns or any of these points that I went over, make sure you comment below. I'll be sure to respond. Watch out for our next video on Wednesday. All right, we'll see you guys.